Bismillah Rahman Rahim, dear viewers, Assalamu Alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, the US designated role of India as a net security provider has increasingly come under global scrutiny as its actions reveal a continuous pattern of coercion, conflict and covert warfare across South Asia. From fueling terrorism in Pakistan through proxies, escalating tensions with Bangladesh, disputes and skirmishes with China, launching illegal strikes in Myanmar, naval build-up in the Bay of Bengal and around Sri Lanka and Maldives, and clear interference into the internal affairs of Nepal, and sabotaging the regional integration efforts like China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Delhi's aggressive posturing reflects a dangerous shift from diplomacy to deception to domination and destruction. Its neighborhood first policy stands exposed as a strategic deception driven by Hindutva extremism and terrorism. India's weaponization of water, disinformation campaigns and expanding intelligence footprints across South Asia and even globally have unveiled the real monster and an ugly face behind the curtain. Here we take the deep dive into the regional situation, what actually India is doing across different countries. To talk on this very important and imperative aspect of the South Asia's peace and stability, we have in our studios Dr. Tauqeer Hussain Sargana. He is the Assistant Professor of International Relations at the International Islamic University, Islamabad. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. And with him, Dr. Awais Bin Wasi. He is the Indian Affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir. And online joining us, Brigadier Retired Syed Ghazanfar Ali. He is the Strategic Affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us online. Dr. Tauqeer, after the US imposed Indian nomenclature of a so-called net security provider in its Indo-Pacific policy, India, with its actions across South Asia, across region, proved that Delhi is a prime source of instability across the region, fueling proxy wars in Pakistan, violating Myanmar sovereignty. Just recently, we have seen the drone attacks inside Myanmar, then clashing with China, coercing small neighbors like Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives and all others. So how do you see overall scenario as a net security disaster in South Asia when we are talking about India?
Thank you very much, Faisal, for having me on this very important developments of South Asia, where India, as a so-called net security provider, has not been able to fulfill its Western desire. Rather, it ended up into a kind of situation where it is continuously creating instability in and around South Asia. We have to understand this dilemma within the Indian national security premise as well as in the defense posture in this region, which is manifested in its strategic thought as well as strategic culture. The strategic culture of India is based on the Hindutva ideology, the fascist ideology, the ideology which is more related to instability rather than bringing this region into peace. And the strategic thought of India is based on deception, distortion and destabilization of this region. So within these pretext of strategic culture and strategic thought, the Indian leadership had failed to grasp the very opportunity that the Western powers have provided in the Indo-Pacific strategy as a net security provider. And we have to actually see this net security provider, emblem or the slogan of the Western powers, whether India potentially is capable of holding this position of net security provider, or inherently Indians' legacy is net security disaster. We have to look into that domain. So there are two arguments available on this in the literature, and when we see around the world, the Western desire to make India as a net security provider is based on the genuine geopolitical, geostrategic and geoeconomic requirements. But Indian potential to behave within this paradox of net security provider does not fall. They don't have these credentials. So what credentials they have is again the credentials of instability. And when it comes to Pakistan, we have seen Kulbhushan Yadav is the clear example of that.
No doubt about that.
Insurgency in Balochistan, terrorism in Pakistan, it is the clear example of that. Along with that, we have also the European Union's, the Indian Chronicles disinfo labs information that we have seen. Indian has been doing that. So it also comes towards China as well. We have seen in 2020 the Galwan valleys, the instability and the clash where a lot of casualties happen. So Indians Quad, contextualization and cooperation within that framework also, does not fulfill the stabilizing factor or equaling factor. It is again a factor of instability in this region. Myanmar is another example of that. Bangladesh is another example of that. Nepal, Sri Lanka, there are multiple examples which proves that the so-called net security provider, phenomena is just a kind of rhetoric. But in reality, Indians.
Fortunately, US is not the neighboring country of India. Otherwise, US will also taste the
instability and all these things. And I hypothetically speaking, I can tell my Western friends that if you can replace us, which is not true in that, but hypothetically speaking, if Pakistan or the region can be replaced with United States of America and United States of America become Pakistan, geographically speaking, they cannot sustain with that bully, with that deceptive, with that destructive nature of India more than a year. But Pakistan as a country, as a responsible country, has been able to sustain within this region of instability more than eight decades.
But it is evident that what the Research and Analysis Wing, RAW, the intelligence agency of India, what that is doing in Australia, in United States, in Canada, there are lots of proofs, even in United Kingdom.
Exactly.
So there are lots of proofs that how India is actually sabotaging the sovereignty and integrity of other countries.
Very true.
And they are breaching. We have the glaring example of Qatar, that how the Indian raw agents, the former naval officers and the soldiers, how they have done the spying on behalf of Israel in Qatar. So this is all evident. But
same in Iran.
Same in Iran.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the recent example and the worst example that how they have betrayed their friend actually.
Yes.
Awais Bin Wasi sahab, do you not think that India's neighborhood first policy, a deception for regional manipulation, like military campaigns, naval outreach, overreach even, political interference and the economic blockades, is it not clear that India's foreign policy increasingly hijacked by the extremist and terrorist Hindutva ideology, turning diplomacy into aggression, reducing dialogue into coercion, connectivity into isolation, peace into conflict across the region?
Yes, you are right. When we see the stated policy of India when it comes to neighborhood first policy, so we come to see very promising and very alluring picture which is being stated in the policy status discourse. But when we see the practice of India, when we see the conduct and actions of India, the picture which is being emerged, that is quite contrary and contradictory. There are a lot of examples, and the reason which India is doing so is, I think, because of the thinking, the status thinking that is inspired by expansionist designs. And the second thing is that India behaves as a big brother, and this attitude is not acceptable by the South Asian smaller countries, including, for example, we can, one by one we can discuss. For example, if we see the Bangladesh, there is a lot of rising anti-India sentiment. And even the sentiment against Hasina Wajid, that is so because she has been projected there, she has been seen there in Bangladesh as a proxy of New Delhi. So that is why this anti-India sentiment that you can see, and there is a constant meddling, the political meddling in the Bangladeshi political affairs. In the last 3 election campaigns, there was a visible interference of Indian agencies.
In every sphere inside Bangladesh, because this was not limited to the
not
politics,
only,
but also into the economy, into the trade, into the administration, into the management, into the foreign policy, into the defense as well.
Exactly. In, for example, in Nepal, if we say that, The Nepal recently promulgated the constitution,
Yes.
and there was an observation by India that this constitution needs to be amended. Although it, the matter was internal, but India did not restrict itself just to raise concerns and observation. India, pressurized and forced the government of Nepal to bring amendment into the constitution, and those dissenting voices or the protesters, they have been abated and they have been spotted.
Even for decades, India actually paralyzed the political system within Nepal.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, most of the times, that constitution was held because of the Indian interference. So it is unfortunate that India is interfering in each and every country in region.
Exactly, and the third country, for example, that Maldives, if we see that, and the last election, 2023 presidential election, the party which won the election, the dominant slogan of that party was India out.
India out, yes.
And there was a military presence, there was an economic domination of India, and there was persistent interference by India.
And that's why 80 to 100 military personnel who were stationed in Maldives,
Exactly.
those were all given persona non grata.
Exactly, and Pakistan case has already been discussed by Dr. Saab, that the evidences are so stark and so visible and clear. So I think it doesn't need explanation, because it is just stating the obvious.
Yes, definitely. Your point well taken. Brigadier Ghazanfar Saab, how do you analyze the Indian hypocritic state-sponsored policies of committing heinous crimes of terrorism within and without as a tool of its foreign policy particularly? How can Delhi actually justify its covert support to the terrorist proxies across the region and beyond, especially against Pakistan like Fitna al-Kharij TTP and Fitna al-Hindustan BLA, while dramatically portraying itself as a victim of terrorism at the regional and the global forums?
Thank you very much, Faisal. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, why it has been portraying itself as a victim of the terrorism, in that I would very humbly say that partly the fault lies with us and with our own policy. Because when the terrorism in India happened in form of Pulwama, in form of attack on their bases or anywhere, what they did was they directly related it to Pakistan without waiting for any moment, without waiting for evidence. And recently you have seen what happened in Pahalgam. Now, what happened in Pahalgam is absolutely 100% different than as far as the Pakistan reaction is concerned, or what happened in Pulwama, and the way Pakistan reacted at that point of time, that was required years before. For a very long period of time, we had not been saying in our statement that which is the country which is involved in terrorism in Pakistan, which is the country which is involved in attacking APS, which is the country which is involved in attacking the police line, which is the country which is involved in harboring suicide bomber, which is the country which is involved in BLA, BRA, BNA, harboring, financing, terror training, camps, and all those things. You keep on counting, and there's a long list of facts which you can identify, which you can research, and which you can relate to RAW, and which you can relate to RAW and NDS even in Afghanistan. And even not to the extent there was a nexus, there was a combined joint operational cell of intelligence cell which was made in Darakhshan in Afghanistan, which was composed of the Mossad, CIA, Mossad, NDS, and RAW. And they were financing terror and directing terrorist activities in Pakistan. So we had not been recognizing, we had never said that India is doing that. Now when we have started saying this thing and we have started giving proof to the world. So what happened in Pahalgam, what happened in Pulwama, that world did not accept Indian version at all. And what happened at Pulwama, the day after when the incident at Pulwama took place, there was a session of FATF which was going on in Paris, where Pakistan had to be rated according to the document which Pakistan was presenting in the FATF meeting. And what Indians did, they made a documentary of Jaish-e-Mohammed with one person standing in front of a black turban, and they played it in the FATF meeting that look, Pakistan has undertaken Pulwama. Though people there did not believe that. Similarly, the similar thing happened in Pahalgam. So had we reacted at right piece of time, had we reacted at the time when it was required, had we told the world at that point of time that look, it is Indian who are trying to blame Pakistan, and what happened in Chitti Singhpura? It's very evident. What did Clinton say? What did Madeleine Albright say? Madeleine Albright wrote in her book that in Hindu militants and the Raws involved in the murder of Chitti Singhpura. We did not carry it on. We did not portray it. We did not tell it to the public. We did not play it on our media. So the point is that if you do, this is the world's version. If you undertake any appreciation of any attack, or you take any appreciation of any threat, the first thing which comes in between is your threat perception. And in your threat perception, the first thing which comes, the identification of your foe, the identification of your enemy. So if you do not identify your enemy, and if you do not tell people that this is what the India had been doing, so naturally India would be at rest that look, we are not being blamed. So now since we have started doing that, we started telling the world, look at the hypocritical policy of India, what happened in Pahalgam, and when the Indian Foreign Secretary called the ambassadors for the briefing, or their foreign representatives for briefing, they did not believe India. They said, where is the proof? And after the Taj Hotel, there was a very famous book which was written by a Jew author, the India Besieged, in which he pointed out that the aim of my writing is to tell Indian people that, look, your country, your leaders are killing your own people. And he proved that it was a false flag operation which was planned by the RAW, in collaboration with Mossad. And the first target of that Taj Hotel was their own counter-terrorism expert, Karkare. And when Karkare was killed, the Indian government, Indian military went to meet his widow. She refused to meet the Indian officer. She said, you have killed my husband. So the point is, partly the blame lies with us. Now, if we start telling the world now, we deposited 3 dossiers in with the United UNO, and we did not pursue those dossiers. There was an attack in Indian base before Pulwama, and what happened? We registered an FIR in Gujranwala against some people. So, Faisal, we have to be realistic in analyzing things.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right, Brigadier Sir. We have to be realistic and we have to act swiftly on that, and we have to be aggressive when it comes to Pakistan's diplomacy across the world, no doubt about that. Dr. Awais, is India deliberately weaponizing water against the low riparian states? It is not only the story of Pakistan but also Bangladesh, which is evident in case of unprovoked aggressive stance on the Indus Water Treaty and a cruel act against 240 million people, what India has some sort of nefarious designs, which is the clear act of war, no doubt about that, what the National Security Committee has decided. While the same India deliberately exercised by failing to finalize the Teesta River Agreement, thereby using rivers as a tool to undermine the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the act against international and the humanitarian laws. So, how do you see the India's behavior, even is not according to the humanitarian norms?
Exactly. I think that there is no need to dig deep to decipher and to understand. It is something which is quite obvious, and now it has been included into the state's discourse. For example, if we see the statement of the Prime Minister of India, and especially the recent statement coming out by Home Minister Amit Shah, that is very significant to understand that this weaponization, water as a weaponization, that has been, included as a status policy, because he clearly mentioned that Pakistan's share of water will be diverted to Rajasthan through constructing a canal. So, with this statement and the previous statements, that when they have mentioned that we have kept this Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, disregarding all laws, international laws and Indus Water Treaty and all norms and practices. So, I think that this is very obvious. So, I need to discuss that how blatantly illegal this move is. For example, that there is one treaty, that is Indus Water Treaty, and recently, based on the provisions of Indus Water Treaty, Hague recently gave a verdict.
Yes.
This permanent court of arbitration, and in permanent court of arbitration, it the decision clearly mentioned that India's unilateral actions cannot affect the competence of the court.
Definitely.
And the action, the unilateral action which India has taken or India has claimed, it does not have any legal ground, and it is illegal as per the provisions of Indus Water Treaty. Indus Water Treaty, on which India is a signatory, there is a mechanism for the conflict resolution. If there is a deadlock at the commissioner level, there are two other options this treaty provides. One is the appointment of the neutral expert, and the second is the establishment or the creation of this permanent court of arbitration. Both these options have been exercised, but India is disregarding it, and India is saying that this decision has been made at the behest of Pakistan. How come Pakistan affects the global forums or international courts or international organizations that, international organizations and these
Although
forums,
according to the Indus Water Treaty, it is loud and clear that both parties goes to the World Bank and they decide to have a neutral expert or a court of, go to the court of arbitration. So this is very loud and clear in international law. Even the international law of treaties say that, that you have to abide by each and every aspect of any sort of an international treaty, and it was India goes to the to mention into the international law of treaties register that it's an international agreement. So how India can defy that really?
Exactly, you are very much right. So this conduct that India thinks that all the forums, all the bodies should be the echo chamber of India's narrative.
Yes.
And India's shenanigans.
Unfortunately.
That is not going to happen.
This is
because
not the reality
these
really.
decisions have
India
to be
has
made
to come
by
out of fantasies in the
exactly. And when it comes to the Bangladesh, I think it's important to mention the two barrages, Faraka barrage and Tista barrage. So the water is supposed to be shared with Bangladesh, but what happens is that during the dry season, India reduces water, and it has devastating effect on agriculture, especially Bangladesh, very important crop that is rice, including other fishing and other things. And same is the case with the other season. Without warning Bangladesh, India released a large amount of water from these two barrages, causing a lot of disturbance.
That's the main reason why Bangladesh is facing floods, devastating floods every year.
So with these two very clear examples, I can say that this use of water as a weapon is now established, and that is the India's state's policy. It needs to be dismantled, it needs to be exposed, and it needs to be, the world needs to be apprised about it, so that it will have serious implications when it comes to, if we see the recent confrontation between
Definitely,
the two countries.
it's going to be devastating for whole of the region, no doubt about that, because Pakistan has already mentioned it very clearly to the world that it is going to be an act of war if Pakistani waters are going to be diverted or stopped. Dr. Tauqeer, how can Delhi's recent military aggression in Myanmar to kill alleged rebels linked freedom movements in Nagaland, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, even in Mizoram as well? Meanwhile, the same India supporting Rakhine and the Chin rebels inside Myanmar, and also to create interference in Bangladesh through them. Do you not think that India playing disastrously with the international law, does this not an act of covert war against other neighboring states, even a real-time hot conflict against them?
Absolutely right, Faisal. This is a strategic hypocrisy vested within Indian politics. They are not only violating international law, but they are also violating the very sovereignty of their neighboring nations. In Myanmar, that's not the first time that India has been interfering or conducting military operations. In 2015, they have done the same. Without the consent of Myanmar, they have entered into Myanmar, and they starts intelligence operations, they starts military operations in a way which not only Myanmar's security is at stake, but also the kind of peace and stability needed within this region undermines because of Indian acts. So this is so Indians' approach towards Myanmar, not only Myanmar but also towards the other South Asian nation states, is to increase its influence, is to increase influence on the foreign policies and the national politics of these nations, to counterbalance China, as well as to create instability with possible deniability that India is not involved. But whereas India is directly and indirectly trying to create a kind of situation within these nations which are not favoring other competitive nations to India. So that particular hypocrisy is exposed over the period of time, but the world needs to understand that Indian continuous rigidity to follow these policies and politics within South Asia is not going to create a kind of environment which is needed for the greater stability and peace for the world. The United Nations mandate, the United Nations principles, the United Nations norms altogether have been violated by the Indian mindset, Indian leadership and Indian Hindutva philosophy, which is again a kind of catastrophic for the greater.
But unfortunately, you don't want to name the conflict court, conflict. Just place India versus the peace.
Exactly.
So this is unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
Dr. Awais, after former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's brutal rule in Bangladesh defeated, India is too much frustrated right now. First, it had actually started discriminatory internal laws like National Register of Citizens, NRC, and the Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA, targeted Bangladeshi Muslims as infiltrators, undermine Dhaka at all levels, and that fuel actually anti-India sentiments within Bangladesh. Now India started military posturing at the Siliguri corridor, what we mostly know that the chicken's neck of India, while attacking inside Myanmar was a kind of a message to Dhaka what actually India intends to.
Exactly. This this act of military aggression or military intervention, that has also been inspired, that has also been motivated or ignited by the thinking of expansionist designs, because the map in 2015 that they have displayed on Lok Sabha's building, it was clearly mentioned that their border goes beyond Myanmar. So I think that this attack needs to be contextualized in this this expansionist designs and this Hindutva construct that they wanted to have. Second, about this Citizenship Amendment Act, this is a very discriminatory law, and international organization, for example, there is a United States, there is a forum, international religious forum. So that has also raised concern about the treatment of minorities meted out in India by the Indian administration. But if we particularly talk about this law, how discriminatory this law is, that all 6 religions, their citizenship could be managed and navigated on fast track. But when it comes to Muslims have been excluded. Christians are included, Hindus are included, Parsis are included, Jains are included, but Muslims are excluded. I think with that you can understand the discrimination. Second thing, this is closely linked
now
with
India is expanding
NRC.
their own citizens.
Exactly.
Its own citizens to the different countries.
Exactly.
So it is amazing. It is unfortunate.
Yes.
Really. And
So
most of them are Muslims.
most of them, in for example, this Amendment Act is closely linked with the National Register. So this National Register of Citizens, the process has become so cumbersome, so complex for the Muslims, especially Bengali Muslims, because I was coming across a report. It was mentioned there that 1.9 million people, they were Bengali speaking, and most of them, they were Bengali Muslims. They have been excluded from the final list prepared by this National Register of Citizens. They have been included. So it means that they have to face the deportation, they have to face this imprisonment, they have to face this statelessness. Even in Assam, I was coming across the 6 operational detention centers they are existing in Assam alone. So I think that this kind of treatment is being meted out to the Bangladeshi migrants, and as a result what would happen is that this huge volume of refugees, they would be pushed to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh anxiety is understandable because of this fact.
Your point well taken. Brigadier Sahib, with increasing Indian naval and intelligence footprints in Indian Ocean region, including the Andaman Sea, then Gulf of Bengal, and in the Arabian Sea even, South Asia witnessing a silent militarization led by Delhi to encircle China and isolate India's neighboring states, especially associated with China's Belt and Road Initiative, particularly the Maritime Silk Road, especially when it comes to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, even Pakistan from south overall. So how do you see this aspect of India's hegemonic designs within Indian Ocean region now?
Faisal, actually, India issued a naval doctrine which was expanded, which was from 2012 to 2027. And then in 2015, when Narendra Modi came into the power, they issued a doctrine by the name of Sagar, in which the maritime capability and the perspective plan, which they called MCPP, which was 14th plan, that envisaged two things are of importance there. First, they are basing to counter rising China's assertiveness, and then Indian Ocean region, which they call IIUI, they want to become a net security provider. So based on this thing, in 14th plan 2020, Indian Navy said they are going to have 200 ships by 2035, and they allocated budget for that. Then they said they talked about the aircraft carrier component, which was designed that we'll have 4 aircraft carrier component with the Indian Navy. And based on that, they divided their command into the Western, Southern, and Eastern command. And they thought that they will have 300 aircraft, combat aircraft. Now 17 attack submarines and all the ballistic submarines and all that. So it was basically what they are doing now is that in the Southeast Indian Ocean, which they call the sea route to Pacific Ocean and their littoral region, then Mediterranean Sea, its littoral region, west coast of Africa, they expanded to the west coast of Africa. And in that, based in this area, which includes also Indian Ocean from Persian Gulf to Sunda Strait, which is on 60th parallel. In this area, they see that India is going to operate as a blue water navy in this region. However, India does not have the capability of the blue water navy right at this point of time, because the blue water navy means that you operate out of your area of maritime responsibility and go into other regions. But their doctrine which they are issuing, as I said, net security provider, basically is based on these assumptions, for which you see the expansion which is coming into Indian Navy. And in that expansion, they have classified their areas of interest into primary areas of interest and secondary area of interest. Now, previously, which were secondary areas of interest, they have converted those into prime area of interest. And if you see in Gulf, which is a major source of hydrocarbon import for India, which comprises of, in which they say the Gulf of Oman, Gulf of Aden, and Andaman Sea, they are contiguous to those seas. These areas they have incorporated into naval doctrine.
Yes.
You know, the doctrine is basically a super document, and which gives you the concept, and based on the doctrine you make your strategy. So India is making a maritime strategy of basing on two things. As I told you, one is that counter the assertiveness of the Chinese Navy, and moreover take a role as they were thinking to take a role like an American have role in the world. Indian political leadership was thinking that in this regions against Pakistan, they can take a role like Americans have taken a role in the world. They were thinking themselves to the America of South Asia. And similarly, this they are thinking of the naval strategy also. Though they thought that they will have 200 ships by 2035, but because of the budget constraint and all that, they then ultimately reduced it to 175. So India would try to, because the Navy is a very important arm, the Navy, it's not only the military point of view, through which you see Navy, you see Navy from the commercial point of view, you see Navy from the business point of view, you see Navy from the interconnectivity point of view, and then you see Navy, any country's Navy, in collaboration with the navies of the world. So India has bigger designs for that. As I told you, they had a design in this region to become the America.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Is India's growing hostility across South Asia, from aggression against Pakistan, the military standoffs with China, to drone strikes inside Myanmar, and border tensions with Bangladesh, a reflection of deliberate regional hegemony under the garb of strategic autonomy, or posturing of containment of China, or giving compelling false signals to the United States that India still relevant in the region? It is not diminished after the defeat at the hands of Pakistan. India is definitely a net security provider, and please accept that this is the status which must have to be sustained, whether it's Quad, whether it's 2+2 and all others. So do you think that this is the kind of posturing right now going on from Indian side?
Yes, I told you that they are trying to posture themselves. They are trying to represent themselves as a bigger power. But ironically, militarily, they have not proved that, and diplomatically, even they have not proved that. What happened in BRICS? It's a reflective of their diplomacy. That when they went to BRIC, what happened after that? Trump imposed 10% more tariff. And what is BRICS? BRICS is basically against the Western hegemony. And BRICS are going, they have said that they will issue their own currency. So diplomatically, the things are not supportive of them. They may be trying to do, they are posting to do that. I told you that they are posting to become a blue water navy.
Yes.
And they were posting to become a policeman of this region. What Pakistan did militarily. And Pakistan even diplomatically took an advanced note on those things which India was doing against Pakistan, and it was reflected in the writings of the many intellectuals and many defense analysts and the political analysts and the diplomatic analysts throughout the world. So India aims to do that, because they have a desire to do that.
Definitely. You are right. Brigadier Sahib, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Dr. Tauqeer, as Brigadier Sahib rightly pointed out, no doubt about that, India has the hegemonic and nefarious designs. Why does India actually continue to sabotage regional integration initiatives like China-Pakistan Economic Corridor under the Belt and Road Initiative of China, with its destructive policies, having misleading self-belief and portraying to the Western world that it's the only regional country relevant to the international system? What does this reveal about its inferiority complex and some kind of insecurity towards other regional countries? Significantly, the China-Pakistan-led regional integration and connectivity drive. What is going on right now?
Faisal, actually your question strikes at the heart of Indian strategic insecurities and hegemonic tendencies. Because India has been portraying itself that it's a country which is the epicenter of economic development and prosperity, not only within this region but in Asia. But on a parallel side, we have seen Indian zero-sum approach towards regional integration has not only created problems for other economically progressing nations, but also creating a lot of problems within its own foreign policy and diplomacy, which is actually isolating India. Now China and Pakistan, they are committed for regional integration. They are committed for economic prosperity, not only for bilateral arrangement, not only for as bilateral arrangement, but also for the region as a whole and beyond. Because BRI is a project which includes massive number of nations in the world, whose crown project is the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So Indians' anxiety, which is manifested within the geopolitical orchestration, is creating a kind of confusion within the Indian mindsets, that they are actually paddling between the West and the East. And the Indian mindset is not able to come forward, because they believe that if China and Pakistan become successful in regional integration, it is the total loss for India, which is not true. India should become inclusive. It should abandon the politics of bilateralism within this region and enter into the glorious.
That's why India is fearful of China and Pakistan.
Exactly,
and
that's
the main
why.
reason.
So, because multilateralism would bring more fruits for India, more fruits for China, more fruits for Pakistan, and the ultimate fruit is the stability of this region, economic progress of this region. But the Indian zero-sum approach is actually always isolating itself.
Actually, we have witnessed that in Shanghai Cooperation Organization's recent Council of Foreign Ministers meeting as well, and I have a question on that as well. I'll come to you on that. Dr. Awais, how Delhi can claim moral high ground as a responsible state, unfortunately, when India committing genocide and war crimes in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, even inside India's 7 sister states and elsewhere, then India wants to wage all-out war against all. Through economic meltdown, state-sponsored terrorism, funding terrorist proxies, water aggression, violations of the sovereignty, while do you not think that India's dirty regional designs seek dominance through destabilization, dominance, destruction?
Yes, when it comes to this issue of genocide, I think a very important report released by Genocide Watch.
Yes.
The head of the Genocide Watch is Dr. Gregory, and he mentioned that there are 10 indicators of genocide taking place in full scale. Out of 10, 8 have been completed in India. So I think that with this objective and independent opinion of a person who is considered an authority to map this tragic phenomenon, you can understand that how much grave violation India is committing. With regard to the regional thing, I think that now the world can only progress through, because the world has become multilateral, so regional development and regional cooperation, and if we talk about BRICS or SCO or Quad or BRIC or the ASEAN or the other forums. But when it comes to India, what India does is India attempts to dismantle the regional forums. For example, by boycotting consistently, SARC has become defunct. And the opportunity, the window of opportunity that was open in South Asia, that has been dashed to the ground by India's obedience and India's regional designs. And the second thing, we have already discussed it, that how India's designs, they are reflected. For example, water, we have discussed that as a weapon that has been used. Number 2 is the meddling into the political affairs of the smaller countries of the South Asia. And the third is the Bangladesh and Nepal and Maldives and other countries. And recently, as you have rightly alluded, what was the conduct of Indian Defence Minister in SCO forum, when their concerns, they were
first
not,
the Rajnath Singh
in
the Defence Ministers Forum, and then Subramaniam J. Shankar during the Council of Foreign Ministers.
Exactly, when their concerns, though they were unfounded and they were not legitimate, they were not included and incorporated, they decided not to sign the communique of SCO.
This is unfortunate,
so it means
really,
that
on the part of India.
It means that they want to derail another forum.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And now the BRICS is going to derail India as well now. Brigadier Sahib, has Delhi's desperation to contain China and to isolate Pakistan pushed it to a pattern of self-defeating aggression, alienating its neighbors and exposing the hollowness of its Vishwa Guru narrative. While it is in pursuing these objectives, India is facing the worst kind of defeat of the century at every front, especially when we're talking about military, diplomatic, political, bilateral, and at the multilateral forums. How do you see that? And please be brief, because we have run short of time, so we have to end it now.
And the basic principle of that policy is that even if you make a friend for your interest, even if you make a friend, if your interest is involved, that hit him at his back. So this is the policy which they have adopted, and they're going to continue with the same policy. I told you that their thinking, the thinking of their political leadership, Narendra Modi and their own people said that he has undertaken 110 visits. And what happened? What has happened recently to India? It's a total loss. So if you live in the philosophy of the lies, hypocrisies, if you do not see the factual condition existing on the ground, if you do not make your policy relative to your strength, what would happen? The same would happen which has happened with them now. And there are cries inside India which are accusing the BJP or the RSS government for making India a Hindu state, which was not in their constitution even.
So, very right. Very right. We have actually, unfortunately, we have run short of time. So, Dr. Tauqeer, very, very short, very brief. And to have comment, Dr. Wasi, you can elaborate on that. India earlier abandoned SARC, recently refused to accept the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Vision 2030 of indivisible security. Earlier, India opposed SCO condemnation of the Israel's attack on Iran. Later, India was categorized as a state sponsoring terrorism. What it really means India negating SCO or SCO sensing India sabotaging intentions. While the same behavior in the BRICS also, when the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that in his address to the 17th BRICS summit in Brazil, that Delhi wants to redefine BRICS. Your thoughts?
India is actually following the policy of obstructionism when it comes to multilateral forums. All forums where India is at the back side, where it is only an actor, it sabotages that multipolar framework or any kind of arrangement, and try to create a parallel arrangement. For example, we can see from 2016 SARC is abandoned, and other than SARC, the objective was to isolate Pakistan. Not only to isolate Pakistan, but to allow India to dominate in a kind of regional integration or regional forum. So they created BIMSTAC, where Pakistan was not included. So this SCO mindset within the SCO framework is also reflecting the same thing. The indivisible security arrangement where security of one state cannot be achieved by compromising security of another state.
Definitely.
India is actually following the Indo-Pacific strategy and trying to deny that regional contextualization of peace and security offered by SCO, rather following the Indo-Pacific strategy of the Western powers, where they are more antagonistic in terms of defining the security.
Your point well taken, Dr. Awais, one-liner.
I think we have already discussed, this India's approach towards region. So I think that the approach is mainly, as that has been rightly pointed out, obstructive, and it stands in the way of regional integration and regional development.
And definitely, no doubt about that. Thank you very much, Dr. Tauqeer, for your presence here. Thank you very much, Dr. Awais, for your presence in the studios. And thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Saeed Ghazanfar Ali Sahab, for your presence online and very candid and elaborative views. Viewers, you have just listened that India's strategic calculus or strategic calculation, it's Hindutva, extremism, terrorism, and the fascist ideology. They want a kind of a mantra they have of Akhand Bharat, and that's why they are interfering into each and every sovereign state into the region. And there are lots of examples which we have discussed within this program. But the glaring examples of spreading terrorism, extremism across the region, EU Disinfo Lab, this is what India is interfering into the other sovereign states, how India is actually thinking about hegemon in the Indian Ocean region with its expansionist designs and having the thoughts of a blue water navy and with the naval doctrine of India, world must have to think about it, that India, whatever India is doing, not only within the country with the minorities, especially the Muslims, when it comes to its extremist ideology, and then what is happening in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the genocide, war crimes and ethnic cleansing, then what India is intent to across borders and interfering into each and every state, and particularly Pakistan is the sufferer because of the Indian terrorism and extremism which India is spreading as a tool of its foreign policy. And India is rather working for regional integration, connectivity, development and prosperity. India is working for coercion, conflict and covert wars. And this whole episode is actually destabilizing whole of the region. World must make India accountable for its nefarious designs, for its extremism, for its terrorism and the crimes committed against humanity. India using water as a weapon, not only against Pakistan, but also against Bangladesh. So regional countries and the world community must have to stand up against India, because India is ruining the international law and the respect for humanity. Pakistan's foreign policy must have to be very aggressive when it comes to diplomacy, and particularly the media campaigns are needed based on truth and to unveil the dirty and the ugly face of India behind the curtain. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.